Hello here, Steve here in Sydney from the lay gnosis website truebluehealer.com. I've just got something else to say about this wonderful awakening, this great growing millionfold personal awakening for a lot of people with the widespread televising of mediums contacting the dead, proving that death is a myth. That's the central thing. They're not dead at all. The spirits of the people are obviously still functioning, still intelligent, still viable. Doctors Phil and Dr. Oz have been showcasing mediums recently, and it's a tremendous awakening for society generally. And leading the charge, sort of more quietly, less noticed, is the wonderful television show Sensing a Murder, where the New Zealand police have actually asked the television show with these particularly gifted mediums to help them out with some very difficult cold cases. Now, so far it sounds so good, and I've been dancing on the grave of Richard Dawkins because I enjoy jumping up and down on foolishness. But there's actually a greater casualty coming, and this is something that I do approve of, but it's going to be very hurtful to a whole lot of people who've overinvested in things called faith and belief. And that is that the mediums report back to us over and over again, and it's been going on for 120 years now, and the evidence is growing weekly with the New Zealand police force, that the afterlife, wherever the spirits dwell when they contact us, it's not a religious venue. Alright, the afterlife is not a religious venue. Deceased people contacted don't ever say, I'm talking from a glittering cathedral, I'm surrounded by a priesthood and we're all singing hymns. It's never been communicated back through any mediums. Okay? The New Zealand police mediums in the show Sensing Murder don't report this. It's most surprising. So, and it's conspicuous by its absence. The religious aspects, there simply none are conveyed back through these mediums. So what can we say this means for the great religions? Its implications are probably a rabbit chop, a killer blow to the great religions. The great religions have always told people that you need to have faith, hope and belief, and a lot of people cooperated with it because it seemed like the right thing to do. And the problem is that the great religions have always said to you, for a lifetime of obedience to our religious rules, and we are affiliated with the government, remember, and for a lifetime obedience to our religious rules, our holy books, you will go to heaven when you die, and it's a glittering, sparkling religious place full of heavenly choirs and angels and all that sort of stuff. Well, that's going to be proven to be a complete and utter lie by the growing exposition of information supplied through mediums on television. On the Dr. Phil and the Dr. Oz show, not one of the people said, oh, I'm here in a glittering cathedral surrounded by a choir, there's harps everywhere and all that stuff. None of them ever mention it. So now this is the reason that the great religions, none of them have run to embrace the New Zealand police force for finally scientifically proving in a very graphic and ingenious way life after death, proving that death is a myth, because really it shows what a pack of liars and misleading propagandists the great religions have been for thousands of years. So although we have religious hardware, we can still be lied to by people who seem to be in authority and seem to know what they're talking about. And our religious hardware can be sort of targeted by very clever people inventing entities and the like for us to admire and revere, using the religious tendency we have installed in us by evolution, for want of a better phrase, which is the kind of thing that even Richard Dawkins has agreed to. Okay? So, that's an unexpected outcome of this awakening around the world in the middle of 2012. That the great religions are going to lose a whole lot of credibility. In fact, some 40 odd years ago, the Church of England was asked about it. They did a lengthy study, a detailed study, church management, into mediums and communicating with the dead, and they pronounced it true, real and certified. And they didn't know what to do with it because they could see it was the end of their own religion, so they just sat on the report. And it wasn't released till very recently, about 40 years later. That was the Church of England, the Anglican Church in the UK. I'll find the link if I can. It's on the Victor Zammit website somewhere. And another question that might, as you go through this narrative with me, another question that could arise in the viewer's mind would be a very obvious one. If we have this religious hardware installed in our heads by the cruel hand of evolution, pitiless Dawkins' hand of evolution, it's there for some mysterious reason, and afterlife is proven, and churches, the great religions, the great religions have been basically discredited with their false promises of an afterlife. What is the outcome then for the average ordinary person equipped with this hardware, the ability to do meditation and prayer? What is the outcome for the average person when religions can slowly collapse and vanish, as I think they will have to do? The basic truth is that the great religions have always been an attempt to stop you waking up to what you really are. And you never need to find out what you really are. You never really needed to go and attend a government-controlled, franchised chain of pointy buildings. That was just added by princes and governments to build a structure around you to convince you that you were born into this, so it must be true. It's always been there and always will be, so that you would pay taxes, consume, fight in the wars for all the governments, and it's a pretty good scam. It's worked for many thousands of years. So if we don't need the pointy building lot, and we don't need government-administered religions telling us fibs about the afterlife, being a religious venue, which it is not, what is our religious hardware actually for? Really got to ask this question. And the answer is it's not very religious at all. Religion is a misnomer for the hardware in your head. Now I'm going to sidetrack for a minute. I spent a lot of time in conversation with fundamentalist Christian people, and some of them are very, very knowledgeable of the Bible and its writings in great detail, can quote pages, texts, page numbers, chapter headings at will when asked. So I once spent something like 6 months debriefing a religious fundamentalist, and I said to him a few questions, because I don't read holy books, and I said to him, where anywhere does Jesus say that you need to be dead to go to heaven? Where does Jesus actually say that in your holy book? And he went away and he came back and he said, well, it's not actually in the Bible. Jesus doesn't actually say to enter the kingdom of heaven you need to be dead first. So I said, so where does the notion come from that everyone speaks? It's on everybody's lips. It's assumed. Where does it come from? And he went away and he came back and he said, it must be added, it must be generated and propagated by the church itself, because it's certainly not in the holy books. And I was very glad this fundamentalist told me that, because I really trusted his knowledge of the holy book, you see. Now listen to this next couple of sentences. The so-called heaven that people actually talk about, it's written in holy books in all the faiths, the heaven that is spoken of is actually a state of consciousness. It's not another place you go when you die. Heaven is a state of consciousness that you can experience while you're alive here in the physical plane. Children can do it. People have been doing this for thousands of years in forests and caves since the beginning of time, and it's not a religious process because everyone can do it. It's purely natural. So in a minute I think you're going to see how this natural capacity of any person can be hijacked by the great religions. But all the religious hardware that's put in people's heads to do these religious things is purely natural. Religion is a man-made interpretation of natural abilities invented by the state, who really want to control everybody and get their obedience to work, consume, fight wars, etc., you see. So now, going back to the notion that heaven is a state of consciousness, and you've got physical brain hardware, according to Richard Dawkins. According to Richard Dawkins, it's put there by evolution. It's there, okay? It's got to be used for something, or evolution is very cruel. You don't get any additional capacities you don't need. So everything we do must have some survival value, according to the evolutionists, Richard Dawkins. For thousands of years, people have been able to achieve a state of consciousness which is permanent. It's called gnosis with a G, and you've been able to do it for thousands of years by doing decades of meditation. Some people did it early in their lives, some people took many decades to get there. People most successful doing it are Australian Aborigines and forest-dwelling people who don't have a lot of noise in their life, they have a lot of quietness in their life, okay? That's very important because it enables a quiet mind, and a quiet mind is immensely valuable, as anyone doing meditation will know. Now, the business of getting into this state of gnosis, where you know a hell of a lot more about yourself and you know a lot more about what's going on around you than you really should, more than you logically can if you're a purely materialist thinker. Getting into that state by meditation required decades, and often you could wander around in a wilderness and get lost and get basically nowhere. It was exceedingly difficult. And these people meditating, trying to get into a state of gnosis, are the basis of religions, because as groups they get hijacked by governments. For example, a group of monks doing this can just be kidnapped in order to join the army to fight the next tribe. Okay, that's really what religions are about: seizing manpower, making it work, okay, to suit the government of the day, the state's needs, okay, and religions used to get obedience out of people. But the natural tendency of people to do meditation and that sort of thing was practiced by Greeks, Buddhists, cavemen, shamans, all sorts of things. Okay, so there's this natural tendency in people which has been exploited by religionists, who are basically secular-minded people who just want to exploit the religious hardware of the average person. And now there's some wonderful news. You don't have to do lots of sitting on your bum doing meditation anymore. The awakening is occurring now. In mid-2012, you can now get physical evidence of why you have all this hardware in your head. And if you've done meditation, you're doing it for a reason, because you're predisposed to do it. But now there's a way to touch home with what put evolution into place. There's a way to touch home in 20 minutes, and you can get physical evidence of this. In fact, home's reaching out to touch you. And it's a process which is now fully automated on the internet. There is a website that will give you this physical evidence in just 20 minutes of why you have all this wonderful hardware and why we've had all this heartache for thousands of years with organised religions that we never really needed. Okay, but the wait is over, and now in 2012, while Dr. Oz and all that is showing us afterlife, and while the New Zealand police are showcasing afterlife and survival after death, you can learn the true meaning of heaven on earth, and it starts inside you. It's a level of consciousness with physical attributes that can be felt. Okay, it's a wonderful trip to do. It takes only 20 minutes and it's free. And what happens is you go to a website, you go through a process, you are shown something, and you get some immediate physical evidence, and then within about 6 or 7 days you'll get some vivid messaging dreams. Within a fortnight you'll get some physical signals, That's exciting when you get physical signals. All of a sudden all your brain hardware starts working, and you all of a sudden think you become alive. And vivid messaging dreams you'll be getting very quickly, and sometime later you'll be able to send dreams to other people. It's best to pick dreams in people close to yourself. But that's all explained in the website. Takes only 20 minutes to do the beginner's tour at truebluehealer.com. Okay, truebluehealer.com is the place to go. 20 minutes. You can ask questions. All questions will be answered. Now, if you're a Dawkins troll, you can try. But angry people have difficulty doing the physical exercise. Okay, so that's that. And the process turns you into a Gnostic. That's a Gnostic with a G. And it's something like Joan of Arc, when you hear an internal voice. That'll take about 4 months to start up. Okay? That's where you're headed. And in fact, everyone is physically equipped to become a Gnostic. It's the natural state of being. It's where you're intended to be. And you're actually born with your internal eyelids closed so that you're not aware of other things within yourself. And it's just because you're being raised and in a hatchery, and Earth is a giant hatchery. And what you're going to hatch into, you will find out when you go to truebluehealer.com and do the 20 minutes beginner's tour. So can I see you there? Bye-bye. Steve here in Sydney.